Coming to you live from WRUE in Tennessee. It's the Scribbling Woman.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rue, and I am the Scribbling Woman. Here we talk about the writerly life that is unique to each of us, no matter our age, our season, or where we are in our creative pursuits. You are now an official Scribbly, so let's chat. This season on the podcast, we're talking about setting and committing to intentions that keep us writing, even in a world that's kind of disturbing, both the world at large and in the publishing sector. One of the best ways to ensure that we commit to those beautiful intentions, things that are not goals or resolutions or impossible to maintain expectations of ourselves, but more the yearnings that come from our soul, the things that shape how we move forward. This can be anything from I long to know what it is that I really want to write about. I have a yearning to discover my authentic voice. I really want the courage to put my toe in the water and get my work out there. And one of the best ways to ensure that we can remain committed to those gorgeous intentions is to let go of some of the things that we are holding on to that stand in our way. They can become speed bumps, if not that semi that's coming right at you. Letting go. Doesn't that sound good? It sounds so free, as if you could just say, okay, I'm not going to think that anymore. I'm not going to expect that of myself anymore. Wow, that feels really good. No, it doesn't quite work that way. I practice yoga most mornings of my life, and the entire time I am releasing, so that by the time I reach the end of my meditation, I'm not hearing any voices except the authentic ones, my true voice and God's. And then 10 minutes later, when I'm standing at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the crud off of last night's dishes, I'm thinking, I am the worst housekeeper ever. The health department is going to come in here. If it were just a matter of letting go, why wouldn't we just do it? I think it's to our benefit to think of this a little bit differently. Instead of just, I'm going to let go of that, it's I'm just going to loosen my grip just a little bit. It's kind of like writing with a calligraphy pen. Is it not beautiful? Thank you, Jim. If you white knuckle that sucker, you're going to rip a hole right in the paper. If you get too loosey-goosey with it, it looks like a third grader wrote it. But if you just loosen up just a little bit and write with your whole arm, you're going to come out with something beautiful. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. So let's talk about just loosening our grip a little bit. Now, the things that we need to sort of semi-let go of are different for all of us. So what I'm going to do right now is give you 5 nudges to ponder so that you know where you really are holding on tight. Now, if you want to, you can just jot these down and think about them later. You can stop the recording and make some notes right now, or you can wait until after you've listened to the podcast and then go to nancyrue.com, and they're all listed for you in this week's blog post. All right, nudge number 1. Consider your idea of success as a writer, your idea. Be honest with yourself. Is it really just, I just want the satisfaction, or I just want to reach one person? Maybe that is success for you, but be very clear and authentic with yourself about what you really believe in terms of writing success. Nudge number 2, think about the activities in your life that make you go, see, I don't have time to write. Whether those are things you think you should do or things you actually have to do. What becomes a speed bump if not a full-on head-on collision? Then consider things like ROI, return on investment. How much does that matter to you? How much difference does it make to you that you get something back from all this time that you're spending on writing? And again, be honest, and be honest with you, not what anyone else expects. Now, number 4 is kind of a biggie for just about every woman I know. Consider what you think other people are thinking, what they're thinking about you just writing, period, how much time you're spending on it, what you're writing. What is your perception of what they're thinking? And finally, nudge number 5, what do you think of your own writing? Its worth, the amount of time that you spend on it. Truly, what is it worth to you? Now, if we were all together, and I wish we were in person, sitting around some big roaring fire in a great room where we all have cushy chairs and we have our mugs of something, preferably with Baileys in them, and we honestly shared what we came up with as we responded to those nudges, everybody's would be a little bit different. Some people are really, really holding on hard and leaning into things like, well, I really need to develop my social media presence before I can even think about writing. All the way to, I think my mother-in-law doesn't approve, and man, that can really make life miserable. Everybody's different. But I'd like now for us to consider the things that just about every writer, especially a writerly woman, would benefit from loosening her grip on. And again, you can ponder these right now, pause the recording, do some writing, or again, go to the blog at nancyrue.com because it's all listed out there for you and you can answer at your leisure. That first area where we can all benefit from loosening our grip is on outcomes, external outcomes. So we're talking about must have an agent, must have a traditional publisher. If I self-publish, must sell X number of copies and get all 5-star reviews, must have 10,000 followers in social media. Those are external outcomes. Now, could these things happen? Yeah, they do happen. Is it a guarantee that if you work really hard, really put your back into this and do your best writing, that they will happen? Actually, no, because there are so many other factors involved. Now, for some people, just having those dreams and really hanging on to them with a pretty much of a death grip keeps them going. It's like something to work for. They don't really think about whether they're going to be disappointed. It keeps them going. For most of us, having those kinds of, and they are not intentions, they are goals. Having those can be absolutely paralyzing. We find ourselves writing, but we're writing for the market. We're writing for trends instead of for our authentic selves. We become trapped in uncertainty. We start doubting ourselves, and pretty soon the words just do not flow because they don't have a free place to grow. Those are cloud dreams that we were talking about, the external outcomes, and they're beautiful and wonderful. We spent a whole season talking about dreams. But just remember that you can't clench clouds with your hands. The second area I'd like for us to consider is that we would do well to free ourselves from what other people think. Now, when we were just talking about outcomes, all of those external outcomes totally have to do with what other people think. They're completely subjective. Here, we're talking about the people who are closer to you, what your family thinks of the way you're spending your time, what your friends think of what you're pursuing, what your church community thinks about what you should be writing, what your critique group thinks about how you should be writing. That all puts a real crimp in our style, in our freedom, and in our authenticities. And the thing is, those people who do not embrace creativity as a huge part of their lives are not going to get it. So what they think doesn't get to determine whether we have permission to write. So simply consider where that is holding you back. Is it that your mother-in-law raises her eyebrow? That your boss gives you the side eye because you're writing in the corner during your lunch break instead of eating at your desk and dealing with work emails? Or that sort of little frown, little disapproving pursing of the lips that your pastor gives you when you decline another community chairmanship? You have to figure out for yourself how much that matters. And that means loosening your grip just a little bit. And finally, there isn't one of us who wouldn't really be more authentic in our writing and in our writerly lives if we uncurled our fingers just long enough to see we don't have to be producing something all the time. We don't have to be optimizing ourselves every waking minute. In fact, the vital part of any creative life is in doing nothing. Now, it only looks like doing nothing to the eyes of our too busy, frenetic, hardwired society. To us, it's not doing nothing to take a break from your story that's not unfolding the way you want to and just take a little walk or knit a scarf or make yourself an amazing latte. It isn't not writing. It isn't not producing to pen something no one's ever going to read or to play with haiku, even if you're not putting together a poetry collection. It's not writing to poke around in a bookstore or a library or an art gallery or your own backyard to seek inspiration. Everything doesn't have to go into a book. Everything doesn't have to get you more followers on Instagram. Everything doesn't have to make money in order to be worthwhile. So how do we loosen our grip? We know we can't just let go of all of that and fly, be free. How do we loosen our grip? You know, I think we do it one knuckle at a time, not one finger, just one knuckle. And I think we can delve into this more deeply in episodes to come, and of course on the blog. But for right now, consider kind of a three-prong approach. Can you focus on one small thing that you're gripping that's keeping you from creative freedom? Maybe it's the belief that it's just not going to come out on the page the way it is in your mind. And so every word you write is under scrutiny, and pretty soon you can't write anything at all and you decide you're just no good at it. Now, how can we loosen our grip on that a little bit? Well, first of all, we can explore where it's coming from. Maybe it's that teacher who every time she handed back an essay to you, it looked like it had been attacked with a chainsaw. So much red ink. Or maybe it happened at home where you'd be doing your chores and some parent or an older sibling would come behind you and tell you everything you did wrong. Those things get pretty deeply rooted, and the minute we begin to really express ourselves as we are meant to, oh yeah, those voices are going to get really, really loud. So we know what's holding on to us. We know where it comes from. How can we loosen one little knuckle? We take a baby step. So in this, for instance, write one page that is just horrible. You know it's terrible. Break every rule. Do everything that every writing mentor has told you not to do. Just make it really stink so that you can smell it coming off the page. And sit back and go, I'm still here. Did it matter? Did it matter that I put down something bad? Then write the same material the very best that you can. Make it beautiful. Enjoy it. Savor it. Make it delicious. Then compare the two. That second one's a lot better. And I bet it's a lot closer to what was happening in your mind. So what you going to do with that, Scribblies? In episodes in the near future, we are going to talk more about loosening our grip so that we can keep writing, keep moving toward those beautiful intentions that we set for ourselves back in January. Right now, you have the freedom to do 4 things. 1, subscribe here so you don't miss anything, because we're going to talk about this a whole lot more. Go to the blog at nancyrue.com, and this week's episode will kind of, review what we've been talking about here. You can also read a book about someone loosening her grip. This is my first venture out as an indie author. After 125 books traditionally published, this one came out last week. I let go, and so does the character. So go to Amazon and just type in More Than a Footnote, and it should pop up. If you're not an Amazon fan, you can also get this at Ingram Spark. And the fourth thing that you can do, you can, until next time, scribble on.